Just say the name Jack Welch to someone in the corporate world, and you were going to get one of two reactions: absolute admiration or pure terror. There's really no in-between when it comes to the legacy of General Electric's most famous and infamous CEO.
I mean, his legacy is completely split right down the middle. On one side, you have people hailing him as this revolutionary genius who just totally streamlined corporate America, but on the other side, he's seen as the guy who destroyed the American dream for the average worker. So, which one is it?
And this is where it gets really interesting, because this quote right here gets to the heart of the Jack Welch paradox. He genuinely saw himself as a champion for small business values, fighting against bloated, slow-moving companies. And yet, this is the same man who championed enormous CEO bonuses, especially his own, while firing tens of thousands of workers. And speaking of bonuses, just look at this number: $417 million. That was his retirement severance package from GE. At the time, it was the largest in history. I mean, that's a figure so huge, it's hard to even wrap your head around.
So to really understand what made Welch tick, you kind of have to go back to his roots. He was a chemical engineer, and honestly, that background is the perfect metaphor for his entire career. He treated business like a giant lab experiment. You combine opposing elements, you create a catalyst to spark a reaction, and then you stand back and measure the explosive results.
So let's take a look at how this catalyst came to be. Welch's early days and his unbelievable climb up the ladder at GE really set the stage for the corporate earthquake he was about to cause. From day one, he was an agent of change.
And when I say climb, I mean it was more like a rocket launch. He joined GE in 1960 as a junior engineer, and just 21 years later, he was the youngest chairman and CEO in the company's entire history. That kind of rise was just unheard of.
But here's a fun fact. It almost didn't happen. Early on, Welch got so fed up with all the red tape at GE that he was literally about to quit. But an executive talked him into staying by promising him he'd create a small company atmosphere just for him, and, a big fat raise. That moment was key. It locked in his two guiding principles for life: the agility of a small business and the payouts of a massive one.
All right, so once he gets the top job, he doesn't waste a single second. He starts implementing his vision, which leads to his most notorious management tactic and the ruthless nickname it earned him: Neutron Jack. Why? Because like a neutron bomb, his policies could wipe out all the people, but leave the building standing. And his main weapon in this campaign? A system he called the vitality curve. But pretty soon, the rest of the world came to know it by a much more brutal name: rank and yank. The idea was simple and ruthless. Every single year, every manager had to rank all of their employees against one another. And here's how it worked. Your team was split into three groups. The top 20%, the A players, they got all the rewards, the bonuses, the stock options. The middle 70%, the B players, they were the workhorses told to keep improving. And then you had the bottom 10%, the C players. They were fired. Every year. No questions asked.
So you can probably guess what happened next, right? This system created an absolutely toxic culture of fear. It sparked vicious office politics, with people sabotaging each other just to stay out of that bottom 10%. Some managers even admitted to hiring people they knew were weak, just to have a scapegoat ready when it was time to make cuts.
But here's the kicker. It worked. At least the numbers say it did. The financial results under Welch were absolutely staggering. When he became CEO, GE's revenue was hovering around $27 billion. By the time he was done, it peaked at $460 billion. You just can't argue with those numbers. But Neutron Jack wasn't just about firing people. Oh no, his vision was way bigger than that. He was out to completely rewrite the entire corporate playbook for how a company should grow and measure its own success. He pushed this strategy called horizontal expansion. What that means is that GE, a company famous for making, light bulbs and jet engines, suddenly started acting like a Wall Street investment firm. Through its new arm, GE Capital, it was buying up other companies, stripping them for parts, and focusing on making money from money, not just from making things. And this became the new gospel for corporate America. Step 1, expand into businesses you have no experience in. Step 2, use stock buybacks to pump up your share price. And the big one, step 3, make shareholder value the one and only goal, the ultimate goal above everything and everyone else.
And don't think for a second this is all ancient history.
His fingerprints are all over today's business world. Rank and yank, in one form or another, has been used at places like Amazon and Microsoft. That whole horizontal diversification strategy, that's the blueprint for Apple, Amazon, and Facebook. And stock buybacks? Yeah, that's just standard operating procedure now for most of the Fortune 500.
But remember that chemical engineer metaphor? Well, every big reaction has fallout. And after Welch left, the empire he built started to show some really deep structural cracks, which has led to this huge debate over what his legacy really is.
Because here's the thing, the GE that Jack Welch built is gone. It just doesn't exist anymore. After he retired, the company went into this long, painful decline, and eventually it was broken up and sold off for parts. The giant he created just collapsed.
So the big question is, what happened? Whose fault was it? Well, you've got two camps. His defenders say, hey, it was his successors. They couldn't handle it. They'll also point to things like 9/11 and the 2008 crash. But his critics say, no way. They argue that Welch's obsession with short-term profits created a company that was hollow on the inside, and that his brutal culture was a breeding ground for scandal.
And on top of the company's collapse, his personal reputation started taking a beating too. He famously dismissed climate change, he battled regulators over pollution from his factories, and he even joked about putting GE on a barge to find cheaper labor. Then, during a messy divorce, all those insane retirement perks came to light, and his image really took a hit.
So, it all comes back to this one question. Was Jack Welch a necessary catalyst, a force of nature who shook up a lazy, complacent business world? Or was his entire playbook just a formula for disaster, a system that traded long-term health for short-term highs? What do you think? The debate is still raging, and his legacy is still one of the most explosive in business history.